Look, I'll be honest, snakes terrified me. And I know I'm not alone. For most of us, when we think of snakes, we think of danger, poison, fangs, coiled evil waiting to strike. Thanks, movies. And the news isn't helping either. Headlines like these. They all just feed that fear. But what if I told you that my fear slowly turned into fascination and then into love? This is the story of how photographing snakes completely changed the way I see them, and maybe by the end of this video, it might change your mind too. Humans are wired to fear what we don't understand, and snakes tick a lot of those boxes. They don't blink, they slither, they're quiet, fast, and often hidden. And when our only exposure to them is through jump scare YouTube videos, viral Instagram posts, TV and movies, negative portrayals, or exaggerated news headlines, that fear just becomes instinct. Studies have shown that even toddlers without any prior exposure can instinctively recognize snake-like shapes as threats. But here's the catch. Fear isn't always based on reality. In Singapore, most people have never even seen a snake in their life. But the fear is real, almost automatic. And sadly, this fear has often led to one thing: killing. Over the years, we have seen it happen. In 2022, a man in Boon Lay beat a python to death and chopped off its head during an unfortunate encounter. The videos went viral. Onlookers cheered him on. People debated whether he was protecting others or just acting out of fear. And that's not an isolated case. People pour boiling water on snakes, run them over with vehicles, or torture them. Comment sections in social media run wild with users saying they would kill a snake if they see one, no matter what the circumstances are. That they'll need to protect their kids from them. That they have no qualms about destroying all the snakes in the world. The truth is, most snakes in Singapore and in the world in general are not dangerous. And even the venomous ones don't want to hurt you unless provoked. But fear makes people act without thinking, and snakes suffer because of it. When I started wildlife photography, I wasn't looking for snakes. I was chasing birds and otters or other larger charismatic animals. But the more time I spent in nature, the more I began to see things differently. And then I saw my first wild snake. A harmless paradise tree snake, tucked in the corner, moving silently, ignoring my presence. I remember freezing, but instead of running, I raised my camera. And that moment changed everything. The lens made me look, not just glance, but really see. It wasn't some monster. It was beautiful. Glossy green scales, yellow markings, eyes alert but calm. And that was the day I realized fear fades when understanding begins. There are around 70 species of snakes here in Singapore, and only a handful are medically significant. The blue coral snake, the vipers, and the king cobra are venomous, yes, but extremely shy. And if you're a regular city dweller who doesn't venture out into the wilderness, rarely encountered as well. Much more commonly, you'll see the oriental whip snake, bright green and delicate, or the reticulated python, which might show up in drains or canals. There's also the bronze bags, the red snakes, the tree snakes, all non-venomous, and most are beneficial to us. They control rat populations, they eat pests, they are ecosystem guardians in disguise. There's a very specific kind of thrill that comes with spotting a snake in the wild. It's not fear, at least not anymore. It's excitement mixed with awe, because in that moment, you're not just seeing an animal, you're witnessing one of the most misunderstood, elusive, and fascinating creatures on the planet. Snakes don't advertise their presence. They don't call out like birds or rustle through leaves like mammals. You don't stumble upon a snake. You earn that moment through patience, sharp observation, and lots of time, pure luck. I remember once watching a king cobra consume another snake. It was brutal, raw, and primal, but not cruel. Just nature doing what it's done for millions of years without apology. Another time, I came across a white-bellied rat snake, head lifted, body coiled, doing this exaggerated, jerky display to scare me off. To be honest, it looked like it was doing a clumsy little dance. I could not help but be amused, even while being completely in awe. Some of my favorite moments have been at night as well, trekking through muddy forest trails with my headlamp cutting through the dark. Every leaf, every branch becomes a puzzle. I'm scanning for that one shape that doesn't quite belong. And when you finally see it, that flicker of movement, that signature curve, you pause, breathe, and take it in. Every encounter feels like a privilege because snakes don't perform for us. They don't seek our attention. When they reveal themselves, it's because you've entered their world quietly enough to be tolerated. And every time I find one, whether it's a snake in the trees or in the undergrowth, I feel the same thing. Gratitude. Gratitude for the stillness. Gratitude for the reminder that wildness still exists even in Singapore. Gratitude for being allowed to witness nature as it truly is, unfiltered, unscripted, and absolutely unforgettable. So, how do we get rid of this fear of snakes? It begins with education, awareness, and exposure. Three things we don't often associate with snakes because we're so used to avoidance. Most people's knowledge of snakes comes from pop culture, religious symbolism, and fear-based narratives, not from real-world experience. We need to start by knowing the facts, not the myths. For example, one of the most enduring fears comes from the story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, portrayed as a symbol of deceit and evil. And while that story does have some cultural weight, it's important to teach, especially to kids, that these are just allegories and not biology lessons. Taking these stories literally and applying them to real snakes only deepens generations of unjustified fear. Snakes are not villains, they're animals just like any other. They don't stalk humans, they don't see us as food, and they certainly don't wait in ambush hoping to bite the first person that walks past. In fact, almost all snakes will try to flee when they sense a human approaching. We are far too big, unpredictable, and dangerous for that. Many bites only happen when a snake is accidentally stepped upon, cornered, or handled, often by someone trying to move or kill it. It's not aggression, it's defense. Part of the solution also lies in early exposure. If children grow up learning that snakes are part of a healthy ecosystem, they'll be far less likely to grow into adults who scare them reflexively. Educational programs, nature walks, and visual storytelling, like documentaries or even YouTube channels like this, can reshape public perception. And that's why platforms like these are so important. When I share my journey, I'm not just sharing photos, I'm sharing perspective. If just one person watching this video hesitates the next time they see a snake, if they pause and think, wait, maybe it's not trying to attack me, then that's a small step toward change. We don't need to turn everyone into a herpetologist. We don't even need everyone to like snakes. But we do need to stop fearing them blindly and start replacing that fear with understanding, respect, and curiosity. Because only when we understand something can we begin to protect it. Snakes are absolutely vital to the ecosystem, but their importance is often invisible to us because they work quietly in the background, doing the jobs we don't notice until it's too late. One of their most critical roles is controlling rodent populations. Rats and mice reproduce quickly and can devastate food sources, spread diseases, and throw ecosystems, even urban environments, out of balance. Snakes, especially larger species like pythons, are natural, efficient, and chemical-free pest control. A single snake can eat dozens or even hundreds of rodents a year. Without snakes, rodent numbers can explode, and that directly affects public health. But their role doesn't just stop there. Snakes are both predators and prey. They eat insects and frogs and birds and lizards, but they are also food for raptors and even other snakes. They are an essential link in the food web. When you remove a species from that web, the ripple effects can be wide and unpredictable. You may not see it immediately, but over time, the ecosystem becomes unstable. When snakes disappear, whether from persecution, habitat loss, or roadkill, that balance shifts. And it's not just a loss of biodiversity, it's a breakdown in ecological harmony that impacts everybody, including humans. And here's the thing, these snakes, they are not invaders, they are not pests, they're not trespassers in our spaces. They've been here long before the HDBs, expressways, and shopping malls have come up. Snakes are native wildlife, just like the birds, the butterflies, the macaques, and the otters. And just because they're less charismatic or less cuddly doesn't make them any less worthy of protection. We need to stop thinking of nature as something that's out there, in reserves and forests, and start recognizing that it's all around us, including the snakes in our drains, gardens, and parks. Because when we protect snakes, we protect the balance of the entire ecosystem, and that balance is what makes Singapore's wild spaces, however small, so precious. I used to be afraid of snakes. Now, I search for them, I photograph them, and I respect them. And I hope that by telling this story, maybe you'll start to see them not as monsters, but as misunderstood wonders of the wild. Let's protect them, let's learn about them, and maybe one day you'll see a snake not with fear, but with fascination. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe to see more content around wildlife and wildlife photography. You can also support my channel by buying me a cup of coffee, link in the description down below.